Hey everyone, it's Greg Lafferty, the Rocket Guy Real Estate Investment Network. Thanks for coming in and sharing a few minutes of my day with me, where we talk about real estate investing and why real estate is so cool. It's because it's what I do, and I think it's cool. But investing in real estate, we're going to talk a few minutes today about passive income. I am passionate about passive income. Greg, what's passive income? Well, there's a lot of talk about it on the internet. We can kind of talk about what other people say and what I think about passive income. But, kind of the vision around it is that, hey, I'm just going to sit on the beach with my toes in the sand, and instantly some waiter's going to show up with a drink and a check underneath it. That's passive income. I don't have to think about it. Don't have to do anything. Check just shows up. And that's passive, right? I didn't do anything. Passive. As opposed to active income, I go to the job, I clock in, I work my 40, and I'm done and I get paid, right? That's kind of more of an active style of earning money. So, a lot of gurus out there talk about passive income and what that really means. And I'll just tell you, let me just help you with all this. If they're mentioning passive income, it doesn't mean you do nothing, right? I mean, at some point, you have to do something to generate this income that just kind of arrives in your mailbox, right? So you have to move some money around. You have to buy a piece of property or buy a bond or do something different. You have to take some kind of action. There is some active component, but then later over time, it becomes more and more passive. That's kind of the goal, right? To sit around on the beach, and I'm more of a mountain guy. Sand gets everywhere. This is not my idea of a good time. I did that in my 20s, living on Cocoa Beach, and that was a lot of fun. But now that I'm just slightly older, I like more of a mountain view myself. But each his own. So, part of this is how do we accumulate assets so that can generate us money? That's kind of the point. And so I'm a big believer in definition of terms. So if you haven't watched any of my other episodes, let's talk about the difference between an asset and a liability, because asset is what we buy to make money, and that's the core definition. An asset makes me money. A liability costs me money. And so if I buy a rental house, that's an asset. If I buy a home for myself, that's a liability. She's going to cost you some money, okay? And so now, listen, we all need some level of liabilities. You need transportation and shelter and things like that, but assets might be stocks, bonds, maybe a business that you own, some kind of income-producing real estate, which is what I really love. A liability might be maybe poorly invested cash. Maybe it's sitting in a savings account, and all it's going to do is earn less than inflation, right? It's kind of a liability. It costs you money by just sitting under the mattress, so to speak. Maybe toys, jet skis, motorcycles, RVs. I got me a new fifth wheel trailer. Gonna pull it with my F-250. Okay, those are toys, okay? They're gonna cost you a ton of money. You're talking about a $150,000 rig right there. Okay, it's gonna be a little tough. Make that payment every day. Boats, cars, homes, things like that. Those are all liabilities. I get it from an accounting standpoint. The accountants in the room, they're going to say, that's a fixed asset, and that should go on your balance sheet. Yes, I get it. But in the strictest definition of what we're here to talk about, an asset makes you money. Liability costs you money. So when we're talking about passive income, our goal is to buy the correct assets to generate an income upon which we can live. Right? That's the goal. A long time ago, a stock sales guy said, well, Greg, what you're going to do is you're going to save $50 a month and put it over here, and we're going to put it in a mutual fund. And then later in life, when your expenses are lower and you don't need as much money to live, AKA you need to be poor when you're old, okay, then you're going to take money out. And I said, well, how am I going to get money out? They said, well, we're going to sell some of your shares in this mutual fund, and we're going to give you the money. And the goal is to only sell so much of a percentage so that you don't run out of money before you run out of life, okay? And I sat there and said, so if I sell a share of stock or sell a share of mutual funds, what happens when the price goes up? Don't I get less because I don't have as many shares? So if it goes up $1 and I had 100 shares and I only have 90 shares, I only get $90 instead of 100? And he's like, yes. I said, well, that's interesting. Well, how then do I get money out of it without taking the engine out of the car? Because that's what makes the car go, is the engine. in the stock market, the ownership of shares of mutual funds, stocks, bonds, things like that, that's what makes your car go. So if you're taking the engine out of the car, you don't go as well, okay, as your portfolio is trying to grow. So how do we do that? And he just kind of scratched his bald head and said, well, that's a good point. I'm not really sure. So, okay, good. I'll keep doing what I'm doing. So there are passive income options out there, not related to real estate, right? Could be interest-bearing checking accounts, right? Passive income, not a best use of resources, but you can get a savings account, checking account, money market account, those kind of things. That's passive income. I'm just earning interest, earning my 0.1% a year or whatever that might be. It's exciting, woo, as that is. Could be the case. CDs, right? Mature every 6 months, 9 months, 12 months. I get my 2% or whatever it is out there, 0.9%, whatever that might be. Woo. Passive income, right? It just sits there. It grows. When I cash it out, I have more money. Okay. Very, very passive. Don't have to do anything. How about bonds? Maybe stocks, things like that. All the paper assets could be passive income if they're bearing dividends, right? Don't have to do anything. Stocks can yield dividends, and that's passive income. Bonds can have a yield, and when they mature, you can cash them in and make money. It's all good, right? Maybe you want to be a private money lender and you want to lend money out for a mortgage, right? You have a uncle that needs a loan. You want to take that risk with your family? Ooh, not so good. Okay, coming around Thanksgiving, it might be a little tricky if he needs to be foreclosed upon. Okay, but there are a lot of investors, especially kind of in that flip space, remodel space, might need some private money lenders out there that you could partner with and loan something, maybe get 10 or 12% interest on that, whatever the case may be. And that might be good interest income for you in your portfolio. Of course, I'm a big fan of rental income, and that's what we're here to talk about today. A couple of aspects around that, and we're going to kind of peel that onion back. And over the next few episodes, we'll dig into different things, different classes of real estate and other things. I want to peel that onion back a little bit and explore that with you, because as I've stated before, is that my goal with doing these recordings is that maybe one day my teenage sons might want to look at this and try to understand what was going in their dad's head, what was going on in there, and why did he do the crazy things that he did? Why did he take these risks, and why did he do this? So, because right now I'm stupid, as any father of a teenager will tell you, he's stupid. Okay, but one day when I look smart to them, maybe never. And if they don't even look at it, maybe you will. So we'll see. Maybe somebody can listen to this and take some initiative and do this. But why rentals? Why? Let's ask about that, because there's a lot of people out there that they're trying different things, trying to investigate why they want to do things. And we've talked about why do we even want to invest at all. We've talked about that in other series. But one thing that I really like is there's really varying types to meet different investment goals. I can structure these things, and we'll talk a little bit a minute about that to meet different investment goals. Maybe different classes of real estate that kind of meet my needs, that I kind of dig better, one class versus another. There's lots of different components of return. So if one component is a little stronger than another, they blend in, as opposed to, hey, look, all I have is the movement of a stock price. I don't get a dividend off this stock. All I did is the movement of the stock. There's multiple components of return inside real estate, which I really, really like. And also, of course, we've talked about it before, real estate secured by a real asset. Right? Put an insurance wrapper around it. Let that thing burn down to the ground. If it does, the insurance will come in, help you build it back up. The dirt never goes away. There's always some value there. So secured by a real asset. Why not rentals? Because rentals not for everyone. We've talked about this before. I get excuses. I mean, it doesn't take me long. I go to some reception, some party, some social event, and somebody finds, what do you do? This is what I'm a developer. Manage some rental properties, different things. Oh man, I'm just not that handy. Right? I get these excuses. I'm not that handy. I don't want to deal with tenants. I wouldn't even know where to start. What if someone comes and trashes my house? Or they'll say, my uncle had a rental one time and they tore that place up. I'm never going to do that. I'm like, okay, well, there's things that my uncle did one time too that I'm not going to do that either. But there's also things that my family has done before that I really like, and I'm going to follow. Success leaves clues, right? That's what we say. So success leaves clues. So if you are watching and paying attention to how some people become successful, this is just one avenue, and it's one that speaks to me, and it's one that I like. But, when I hear these people say these things, all I get is blah, 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 right? Because all I'm hearing is excuses. And a lot of times excuses are driven by fear. Some excuses are driven by ignorance. And sometimes just really the unknown, right? In fear of the unknown. So, and that's really why we're here at the Rocket Guys. We're here to kind of help with that unknown, help give you some fundamental education to kind of open your eyes just a little bit, maybe expose you enough to want to learn more and to dig into this method of investing. Because really, my experience in being a rental manager, owner, came kind of a little bit haphazardly, whereas I needed to buy a place to live. And after I did that, a buddy of mine said, hey, Greg, I need a place to live too. How about if I pay you $400 a month and I just rent your house with you? I was like, that's a fantastic idea. My mortgage was $695. He was paying me $400. High five. Move on in, buddy. I've got a 2-bedroom. You slide into one of them and, it's awesome. Still a good friend to this day. So, and then a landlord was born, right? I said, man, this is easy. All I had to do was find a little bit of money, sign a few pieces of paper, find a tenant. He came in. He's paying for my bills. Wow, what a deal. And so I just repeated that cycle over and over and over. I just didn't live with every one of my tenants, and I'm very thankful that was not the way I did after I met some of my tenants. So, but that's how kind of I got started. So it wasn't even difficult. It was actually easy to start down that process. I just kind of fell into it. And here I was, almost 25 years later. So one thing I mentioned, though, a little bit earlier about real estate investing is I can structure these things to meet my goals, right? When you sit down with a stock sales guy, the first thing out of his mouth is, what's your risk tolerance, right? And then the next thing out of his mouth is going to be, well, what are your 5-year goals? What are your 5-year goals? And they look at me and they go, man, he's old. He's going to need income. Okay. They look at a young kid fresh out of high school. You're going to want growth. Okay. Which means you're going to be a lot of volatility. You're not going to get any income out of it. They want to start you out strong and hard. And when you get to my age, they want to slow me down because my risk tolerance increases, which means I don't want to lose anything because later I want to be able to live off of that. Okay, so I'm going to want income. So usually they talk about a growth fund, an income fund, and then right in the middle they have growth and income. You have the same thing in real estate. It's pretty interesting. If you want income, hey man, you want to buy that thing right. You want to have as little debt as possible on it, and you want a lot of cash flow. Income. That's all it is, right? You might have to even pay in cash. Buy the whole thing in cash. Okay, you get all the income you want. Maybe it's some kind of commercial structure like a triple net on a Bojangles or something, right? Walgreens building, some kind of commercial property where the tenant pays for all the expenses, taxes, insurance, everything. They just give you a check. So if you have no debt, you get to spend the check. Okay. It's kind of nice that way. If I want growth, I want as much debt on that puppy as possible. I want a high appreciation. I want a real strong buy, and that thing's going to grow. Okay. No cash. No cash. And that is a real dangerous model. Let me repeat that for all the young crazy people like I was. Okay. High debt is high risk. And so somewhere in there is a happy medium between the two. Okay. Somewhere in there is a good, comfortable position of growth and income, which means, hey, look, I've got a moderate amount of debt. Okay. Leverage is what they call that. Means you owe the bank. Okay, borrower servant to the lender. That's just how it is. If I borrow money, the bank calls the shots. I'm really just renting it from the bank. Okay, that's how that works. Okay, but moderate leverage, meaning less than 80%. If I put 20, 25% down, I consider that kind of moderate leverage. It's not aggressive, like I'm trying to get no money down, go crazy, right? Back in the crazy days where I was running that railroad train right off the tracks. And you get some moderate appreciation, but I'm really looking for the cash flow because cash flow is what protects us. That's it. We get our protection from cash flow. When the water heater goes out, guess how we replace that puppy? Cash flow, right? When the rent is not coming in because somebody's defaulting on their rental agreement, how do we cover that? Cash flow. When the unit becomes vacant, how do we cover the bills? Cash flow, right? So you need that. The cash flow is the most important part, okay? So if you're highly leveraged, unless you bought that property really cheap, okay, all your cash flow is going straight to the bank. It's just how it is. You're paying the 100% of that cash flow goes to pay the mortgage. That's it. So when the water heater goes out, guess who's coming up with $1,000? You are. Coming right out of Hip National Bank. Okay, that's how that works. So if you're down in that income level, you're not going to get the kind of returns, but guess what? You don't care really what happens because you've got plenty of cash flow. That's how that works. So somewhere in there is a good happy medium. And that's kind of my message here, especially to the young crew, and to my sons, because I got caught up in that trap of, hey, I don't know how to buy real estate. I'm just going to go no money down, gunslinging out there, buying condos on a credit card. Okay. It was crazy, absolutely crazy. How do you calculate the monthly payment on a credit card that size? Okay. I had no idea. That's what I learned was really dangerous. I didn't know how much the payment was going to be until the rent came in. I tried to pay the bill with my rent. And I was like, wow, this is not going to work. Okay. So, but that was a crazy time. And I was using all kinds of nifty owner financing, wraps, and all kinds of crazy things that you can Google all that. You can look it all up and you can go that way. But if you want to follow my philosophy, I would tell you stay away from all that. Okay. Because it's crazy and I almost lost it all. One thing I really like about real estate too, and we can peel this onion back just a minute, is that when you structure this thing correctly, and you have kind of that growth in income kind of feel where you get decent appreciation, you get good principal reduction when you're paying that mortgage down every month. That's a component, right? You're building equity every month, and you have some cash flow. Those are the multiple building blocks of the return, as opposed to just watching my stock price rise and fall, and that's my only return, and I only get to catch it whenever I sell the share of stock, right? In real estate, I get those multiple components. So every month, as I'm paying bills and collecting rent, I get a little bit of cash flow, right? Every month. That's how I structure it. Now, if you structure yours different, there's no cash flow, that component goes away, right? But then also, there's this nice, consistent, gradual appreciation generally. Now, if we know in 2008, 9, and 10, whenever that was, it's like a blur, we had negative appreciation. That means we lost money, okay? All of sophisticated people are like, we have negative appreciation. Like Houston, we have a problem. Okay. So the real estate economy kind of shrunk. The real estate market shrunk. And when it did, all the valuations went down. So we lost money. But generally, there's a nice, good, consistent, as long as you're not in the Bay Area where it's up and down, But in my area outside of Charlotte, there's just a nice, consistent kind of 3 to 6% appreciation every year. Well, that's part of my return, right? It's kind of like a little magic bank account. I don't cash it in till I sell or maybe refinance and pull the cash out, whatever the case may be. I don't get to tap into it, but that's part of the equity growth, right? The other part is the principal reduction, and that's a neat little mathematical formula that just happens every month that I pay the mortgage, right? If you get a 15-year loan, the first couple of years, man, there's no principal reduction. It's all interest expense. But as you get to about 7, 8, and 9, year 7, 8, and 9, that number starts to flip over and I get more and more principal than I'm paying in interest. And of course, when you tie that principal reduction in with the appreciation, that is my equity growth, the two together, right? And so I get cash flow, appreciation, and principal reduction every month. Every month. One is real, which is cash flow. I get to put that straight in my pocket. The other two, they're real. You just can't spend them, okay? You can't spend them, but it's growing your wealth. And so over time, what happens is, all those are part of your return. So when I eventually sell that property, guess what I can do? I can cash in on the appreciation and the principal reduction because that is my equity in the property. Okay, that's what I own of the property. That's my equity. The rest the bank owns, right? Whatever left on the debt. And then I've taken this cash flow out all over these years. Right? So kind of the three numbers added together is kind of my return. It's not calculated quite that way, but that's kind of my return. And that's what I have. So part of it is increasing my income. Part of it is increasing my net worth, right? Which is great long-term because then when I sell the property, I can take that net worth component and then go invest it into bigger properties. And so one of my uncles used to say, Greg, time is on your side. Now he's telling me when I was 26. And now that I'm slightly older than that, I can really appreciate that. But what he was trying to tell me is that the longer you hold these properties, that natural appreciation and natural principal reduction just accelerates and accelerates and accelerates, and I'm getting more and more worth as I go, right? So time is on your side. Doesn't mean you have to hold real estate for a long time. I've done plenty of flips and renovations, and we build houses for a living. Okay, I've got that active side of my real estate kind of going over there. And but from a long-term perspective, all I have to do is hang on, okay, because time is on my side. And one of the other differences that I really like about rentals is that the tenant is paying for that, right? It's not me putting in $50 a month for that principal reduction. That's not what we're talking about. It's the tenant's money. As long as I'm having positive cash flow, right, then the tenant has paid for all the expenses, including the mortgage payment, which is awesome. That's almost like better than a 401k match, right? Which used to be really big a long time ago. Nah, it's less and less, right? You put in 5% of your money, and then the company pays a free 5% of your money, free to you, okay? This is even better, right? Sometimes I could structure these things where I don't put much of my money in at all, then all of a sudden the tenant buys the whole property for me. It's awesome. Or maybe 3 generations of buildings later. Maybe I started with a single family home, then I sold it, I used the money and I bought a duplex, I sold that, and I bought a 10 unit, right? 3 generations down, the amount of money that I really have in it was really my small little down payment I used on this one little house. And then over here, I have all this net worth now, right? 10 years, 15 years later, right? Real estate can be a long game. It's a long game, but it's a very solid game. So the beauty is, and what I want you to really realize is there's multiple components of this return, and this can be done in single family, multifamily, commercial. They all have their nuances. They're all a little different. They're all a different flavor of ice cream, but they're still ice cream. Okay? I love that ice cream analogy. Sorry. Okay? But time is on your side, and the value continues to increase exponentially, right? It grows faster and faster and faster every year, just from the nature of how these multipliers with percentage on top of percentage, right? It's what we call compounded returns every year. Gets faster and faster and faster. So now when I look at one of the reports I actually look at when I'm analyzing is how much principal reduction am I doing every year? Well, now after all these years, I'm putting more in principal than most people make every year, right? Which is fantastic, because then that means my net worth is almost like some people saving their entire salary, right? Which is very, very exciting. And then I'm not really paying for that. My tenants are, which is a great fundamental here, right? That's all. It's not all roses. I'm not going to paint that. It's not, right? So there's a lot of work involved, and it doesn't have to be. You could be a true passive investor or hire a management company, do all that kind of stuff. And we've talked about that before, but for me, I'm more of a hands-on business guy, right? So I like it as a business, and that's how I treat it. So we're going to peel back some of these things in future segments and kind of dig a little bit deeper into multifamily and dig a little bit deeper in single family. Maybe we broke into some commercial. I really thank everybody for tuning in today and joining us here at the Rocket Guy Real Estate Investment Network, where we're talking about real estate investing and how to improve yourself and get financial literacy around real estate investing so that you can then go and tackle your why and help your why get stronger. So come back and join us next time. I really appreciate your time. Take care. Have a great day.